Hello, I'm Steve McCloud, author of the book Black Dragon, The Experience of a Marine Rifle Company in the Central Pacific. We're here on Pier Number 2 at Kahului on the island of Maui, and it's 12:30 on the 4th of April, 1945, and the 4th Marine Division has just arrived from Iwo Jima. In all, the division sailed to Iwo Jima in 51 ships, though it took only 12 to bring them back here to Maui. And only 3 ships will be unloading on this day because there's just simply not enough room at Kahului for all of them. The others at Pearl Harbor, waiting their turn. This is the USS President Polk with division headquarters, including its commander, Major General Clifton B. Cates, aboard. And just on the other side, coming alongside Pier Number 1 right now, is the USS Rockbridge with the 2nd Battalion 23rd Marines aboard and various attached units. Let's talk just a minute about their journey back from Iwo Jima. The Marines of Fox Company, 2nd Battalion 23rd, the company featured in the book Black Dragon, spent the early morning hours of 16 March making the slow stroll through the division cemetery and bidding a final farewell to their buddies. And an hour later, they were walking up the ramp of LST-761, this very ship that had launched Easy Company on D-Day. Here we actually see the Marines waiting on the LST's main deck to walk literally from one deck to the other to the USS Rockbridge. In the rough seas, both ships took quite a beating in this little operation, but those seas made the use of small craft impracticable. Now, once the division had finally finished loading on the 20th, they sailed first to Guam, then on to Eniwetok to refuel, then made the long journey back to Maui. And by all accounts, the ship's crews did all they could to make the guys feel welcome. And there are a few ship's photographs that I want to share here. In this photograph, looking up at the second level, we actually see the regimental commander, Colonel Winsinger, taking a seat next to the ship's skipper, Captain Bill Cohn. Possibly Lieutenant Colonel Dillon preparing to sit next to him. Winsinger had been the operations officer for the division before taking command of the 23rd Marines. And here in the same photograph, looking right at us, is First Lieutenant Henry Buck Finney, the exceptional commander of the mortar platoon for the 2nd Battalion 23rd. In fact, Buck will be the final wartime commander of Fox Company and will bring the company home in October. And what are they watching from this position? Well, such things as performances by the regimental band detachment, filmed here by division photographer Corporal Seth Shenton. And there were divine services, with seating inside the boxing ring set up on the ship's number 4 hatch, where not only were boxing matches held, but talent shows. And since the ship was a new ship and didn't have books and games stocked, as had been the case on the way out, if you had a talent, you were in demand and much appreciated. And of course, there were pie-eating contests, and with each of those comes the winners. And the results of all these things were covered in the ship's newsletter, the Amphibian. This issue, the 31st of March, covered not only the British fleet's activities in the Pacific, but the next day was Easter Sunday, which they called Easter West. That is because when the troops went to sleep that night, the ships crossed the international date line, and they woke to Easter Sunday again, and featured a barbershop quintet that included the battalion surgeon Glenn Rice, seen it right. And just before the ships were to reach Maui, the Marines got the word from Colonel Winsinger that all personnel would have haircuts and clean clothes and wear full uniforms, including head cover, when they reached Kahului on the afternoon of the 4th. And this is Kahului's harbor, photographed here in 1929, where we can see the 2 piers and their sheds, and on the right is Pier Number 1 with its 340-foot-long shed, at this time being extended along the breakwater, and this very same shed is still in use today. And 16 years later, the USS President Polk is moored starboard side to Pier Number 2, having brought Marines back from Iwo Jima. And that pier will be filled with people there to greet him. And our photographer, Staff Sergeant Richard E. Tiernan, got off the ship in a hurry and found his initial spot from the opposite corner of the pier. Here, he's at the foot of the gangway, and he's capturing the occasion for all of us with his 35mm Bell & Howell IMO. These are Division Headquarters boys debarking. And we see the Navy CB band playing there, and also a local group playing with hula dancers, greeting the Marines with an island welcome. And most of these young fellows had been away from Maui for 3 to 4 months. Some of them had actually spent New Year's Eve aboard ship. One can only imagine the shock after the nightmarish specter that was Iwo Jima, and now to suddenly return to the real world, a normal world, the feeling of home. And here comes General Cates, who seems awfully glad to be back on Maui. And there's his Chief of Staff, Colonel Merton Batchelder. Batchelder had commanded the 25th Marines through the Marianas operations. And combat photographer Joe Glozak from New York is making his rounds with his speed graphic. Standing on one of the trucks here, not only has he captured General Cates and his Chief of Staff, but also Dick Tiernan there with his color motion picture camera, doing his job as well, capturing the footage we just enjoyed. And here Joe has moved around to the shed, looking back, capturing the shot for us. We can see the crowd of civilians and military personnel there. And the local ladies, they're ready with leis to present to the Marines. And that elbow to the right is Dick Tiernan with his motion picture camera there to capture the footage. Now, this footage was shot by Sergeant John W. Kennedy, Jr., and he shot this on the 6th of April, the third day of unloading at Kahului. He had debarked the day before from USS Lander, and now he's back down at the pier this Friday morning about 9:30, at Pier Number 1, actually, on the outside. And here he's filming an echelon of 1st Battalion, 14th Marines returning. Marine correspondents wrote that Red Cross workers and Girl Scouts and others were there at the pier handing out ice cream and coffee and donuts and other forms of welcome. Welcome back, Marine. Staff Sergeant Bob Cook, a combat correspondent with the 23rd, wrote that the Marines settled into their trucks and the convoys rolled slowly ahead, and the band played Semper Fidelis as they cleared the docks. There goes a Marine with another donut. And, a few more donuts here, but rats. Leaving the pier, the convoy would proceed toward Main Street and then turn left on Kanaha Avenue toward Paia. And Cook wrote that the road was lined with islanders laughing and throwing flowers, boxes of ice cream, pamphlets, toilet kits, and cigarettes. Girl Scouts, school children, men and women all joined in feting the Marines. And also they were startled to see a banner streaming across the road. Now this may be the school at Paia. What an incredible scene to see school children floating across the grass with their teachers to greet the Marines. We also see Red Cross workers here filling helmets with personal items that the boys are certainly going to need. From there, the convoy headed up Baldwin Avenue until it reached the little crossroad town of Makawao and turned left for the final run into Camp Maui, which had undergone quite a transformation in the 3 months they'd been gone. In the meantime, they sat back and ate their donuts and read the little yellow pamphlet given them by the people of Maui, a welcome they would never forget.
Hi, you Marines. Welcome home. It's no snow job when we tell you that the servicemen and women and the civilians of Maui are throwing this big shindig for you because we think you're just about the greatest guys that ever landed on this island. When the news came over the radio that the Marines had hit Iwo Jima, everybody asked the same question. Are the Maui Marines there? Then we heard the news flash that you and a lot of other Marines were in there pitching. After that, nothing else that happened seemed to matter very much. We don't need to tell you that everyone from Hana to Lahaina is mighty proud of you. And when we read that you had named the first street Maui Boulevard, we were practically bursting at the seams. So welcome to Maui, the old friends and the new. Welcome to Yao Valley and Haleakala, to the rainbows and the rain, that everlasting rain at Camp Maui, the steaks and the banana splits, the pineapples and the poi, the carnation leis and the steel guitars. But most important of all, welcome back to all the folks on Maui who think it might be a pretty good idea to add a new word to that famous slogan, Maui no Ka'oi, and let the world know it is now Maui Marines no Ka'oi, the people of Maui.